And we're live. Good evening, folks. Welcome to Friday Night Tech Talk. I'm George Hayes, if you haven't been here before. And we do this every Friday night. I bring up some articles about tech stories that happened during the week since the last Friday. And we talk about them. I try to find either what's hot, like if there's a big presentation that week, or like this week, everybody's talking about DeepSeek, so I've gotten two stories about DeepSeek. Oh, sorry about that.
Everybody's talking about DeepSeek.
Okay. And then I always try to come up with some other articles that you may not have heard everywhere else, thinking that if you're a tech geek like me, and I'm thinking because you're here, you probably are, then hopefully I can give you something you haven't heard before. So, first one in here tonight was Brian. He was here about 20 minutes ago. And Eleanor popped in. Hi, Eleanor. Glad you're here. Two of the most faithful right off the bat. So, as I said, if you're new here, we do this every Friday. Please type something in the comments and let us know you're here and let us know where you're from. Now, last week we had Mike and Will and I, who were the OGs, the three guys who started Friday Night Tech Talk, something over 5 years ago. And because we don't get together often, and we were excited, and we were talking on new tech. Mike had ordered the S25 Ultra, which he unboxed today on his channel on Simply Your Device, so go check that out. And I had just gotten the A35, Samsung Galaxy A35, and I had just gotten the OnePlus 13, which I guess you guys have seen that. Today, as most of you know, I work on Fridays, and I always carry two phones. My phones are always based, my main phone is always based on whichever watch I'm wearing that day. Well, today it was my Apple Watch Series 10, so of course I had my iPhone 15 Pro Max with me, and my other phone for today was the Pixel 9 Pro. Most weeks I forget to tell you guys. I always mean to tell you guys which phones I'm carrying. So sometimes I occasionally remember. So as we do every week, I will show you the show notes for tonight, which are on my website. So I will share a screen here. No, wrong one. All right, let's try it again. Share screen, window, and where are you? Oh, I see. I blocked myself out. All right, this is my last shot. And there it is. So if you go to my website, mobilegeezer.wordpress.com, click on today's date, you'll get just the show notes for tonight's show. And as I do every week, once we're here and I'm showing you this, I give you a little preview of what we're going to talk about tonight. So usually I start with an interesting story, but not the big story or stories of the week. Keep trying to give people a chance to come in. So this is one of the stories I had from last week, and because Mike and Will and I were excited to be together, we talked all evening. I never brought any of the stories up. So this one I thought was interesting, and we've had some TSMC stories in the last few months. But this one I said, TSMC making huge strides in smartphone chips. So we'll take a look at that as the first story. And then we'll go into what has been the big deal of the week, DeepSeek. So I got two. One from Tech Radar. I said DeepSeek R1, that's from DeepSeek, versus Chat GPT-01, best results. So he did a nice comparison telling these to do things and getting him some results. And he did a very nice job here. And that was on Tech Radar. Also from Tech Radar, I guess a co-writer of his, he has his opinion. I said, DeepSeek won't last. One man's opinion. And he does actually reference this first article while we're in there. So you cannot escape DeepSeek this week. It's everywhere. There's videos all over the place about it. There's articles all over every place about it. Wow, Ren's here. Hey, Ren's, glad to have you here, brother. And Ren's is from the Philippines. And usually at this time, since it's 8 o'clock at night, he's 12 or 13 hours ahead of us, and he's on his way to work or at work. And he's first thing he does is apologize for not. We're always glad when you're here, and you know that. And we understand that you're working. And of course, everybody's glad that you're here. So I'm just going over what stories we're going to go over tonight. And as I said, DeepSeek has been everywhere. I've already done a video about it because I didn't. The funny thing was, last week, I had one of the first stories about DeepSeek. Didn't have all these hundreds of stories all over the place. And we never got to it because Mike and Will and I were talking. And then this week, it just exploded everywhere, especially in the stock market. So we'll get to that. So that'll be the second and third stories. After that, iPhone SE4 leaked video, full reveal. And it's just a 10-second video, but it looks like the real thing. So we'll take a look at that. I've got that on Phone Arena. And then our new president, or new old president, however you want to say it, he's still at it. Google, Gulf of Mexico, now Gulf of America, as per President Trump. Denali, now Mount McKinley. And I believe it was called Mount McKinley when I was young. But anyway, both will be changing because President Trump wanted them to. Nobody ordered Google to do this, but Google said they're going to go along with it. So when it's official, it hasn't become official as yet. So I just thought that was a very interesting story. And finally, we're not done with TikTok yet. The resurrected TikTok is not the same. A bunch of people are saying, since they brought it back after that day of it being gone, it's not the same. So I just thought that was an interesting story to go over too. Now, if Ted happens to come in, I haven't heard from Ted this week. And I know lately he's been busy with his photography stuff. But if he happens to come in, from which I'm always grateful, I'll certainly let you guys know when and if he does. And if by some miracle Mike and or Will comes in, that would be great. They all have the link to get in. So glad to have Renz here. It's been a while. Renz, we need to say Happy New Year to you. We haven't seen you since last year, I guess. So back to our first story. And this is from TSMC. TSMC making huge strides in smartphone chips. Like I said, this was from Phone Arena. And this is from January 17th. Like I said, I meant to do the story last week. TSMC says it will start volume production of 1.6 nanometer. Get that, 1.6. Now we're really getting down there. Starting next year. This was published January 17th by Alan Friedman, who does a lot of Phone Arena's articles. So let's drop this into Reader View and give it some of these ads, if not all. The speed that top foundries are moving at in their never-ending quest to improve the speed, performance, and efficiency of smartphone chips is truly remarkable. That's an understatement. Just this year, TSMC, the world's leading foundry, is set to start mass production of 2-nanometer chips. And I don't think anybody would have thought that this soon, because we just started getting 3-nanometer chips last year. Next year, the Taiwan-based company says that it will start mass production of 1.6 nanometer chips. I didn't even know that was possible, but boy, they can get it done. As these process node numbers decline, the size of the transistors inside these chips shrink, which allows more transistors to be shoehorned inside them. So the smaller they get here, the more transistors are in there, which means whatever it's in, whether it's in phones or whatever it's in, it's going to become more powerful. So, and here's Annette. Annette, so glad you're here. Glad you got here. So our most faithfuls are here. Even Renz is here. This is so awesome. Love all you guys being here. Okay, so who knew that 1.6 nanometer chips would be possible? I didn't. This is important because smaller transistors mean that more can fit into a given area of the chip. This metric, known as transistor density, usually rises when the process node goes down. So the density gets bigger as the chip itself gets smaller because you can fit more and more in there. The transistor count of a chip also is important because typically the larger number of transistors in a chip, the more powerful and energy efficient, as I said, more powerful these semiconductors are. Consider the amazing drop in process nodes that we have seen just over the last few years. Yeah, a few years ago, 3 years ago, maybe we got down to 7 nanometer, and we all thought that was a big deal. Look where we are now. For example, in 2019, the iPhone 11 series was powered by the 7 nanometer A13 Bionic application processor, carrying 8.5 billion transistors. So in 7 nanometer chips, 8.5 billion transistors. That's amazing. This past September, the iPhone 16 Pro Max was released with the 3 nanometer, so more than half smaller, A18 Pro AP under the hood. While Apple never released the transistor count for the chipset, the component most likely features over 20 billion transistors, from 8.5 billion to 20 billion, considering that the A17 Pro has 19 billion transistors. So as they get smaller, they just get more and more powerful. TSMC is on a roll as it just reported fourth quarter revenue up 37% year over year to 26.88 billion, and they deserve every bit of it, I think. What TSMC calls smartphone seasonality will lead to a sequential decline in its top line for Q1 2025, although on an annual basis, first quarter growth will rise 34.7%. With its 2 nanometer chip production, TSMC will start using gate-all-around GAA transistors, which use vertically stacked horizontal nanosheets. How do you imagine how small those things are? Allowing the gate to cover all 4 sides of the channel, preventing current leaks and improving the drive current. The result is higher performing chips with more energy efficiency. That makes perfect sense. When it starts production of 1.6 nanometer chips, TSMC will debut backside power delivery, BPD. This is amazing stuff. BPD moves power delivery from the front of a silicon wafer where it leaves less space for transistors to the back where it is unimpeded by other wires. It's amazing how they keep coming up with new and more ways to make it more powerful, better, smaller. It's just amazing. The A18 Pro application processor, made using TSMC's second gen 3 nanometer node, powers the iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max models. To show you, and that's the picture of it there. Doesn't show much, does it? To show you how far we've come, the original iPhone released in 2007 used a chip built on the 90 nanometer process node. Huge strides. The upcoming iPhone 17 series, due to be launched this September, will be powered by the 3 nanometer A19 and A19 Pro APs, which will be made using TSMC's third generation 3 nanometer node. So it's the third generation, and they only started using this last year, I believe. As a result, Apple should be able to introduce the first iPhone to run on 2 nanometer silicon with the 2026 iPhone 18 series. That's amazing. When we see the first iPhone to feature an AP made, when will we see the first iPhone to feature an AP using the 1.6 nanometer node? We will have to get back to you on that. Meanwhile, TSMC says that 1.6 nanometer chips will offer an 8% to 10% improvement in speed, that makes sense, at the same power compared to the 2 nanometer node. So just thought that was interesting. I thought we might all find it interesting because the phones and everything else are going to get a lot more powerful. So that's just amazing to me. All right, nothing else new in the comments, so we will go on. And as I always say, if it's just me, no Ted and nobody else, and of course it'll be a quicker night. So on to the big deal of the week. First one I picked, DeepThink R1, DeepSeek versus ChatGPT O1. Best results? Like I said, one of the writers on Tech Radar did this, so let's go check it out. And this came out 4 days ago. DeepSeek is the new AI chatbot that has the world talking, but that's an understatement. I pitted it against ChatGPT to see which is best. And I picked this article specifically because he gives us good examples of what he tried to get each to do and how they did. And it was by John Anthony DeSoto, published January 27th. Is there a new sheriff in town? And that's what everybody's saying. Is it better than ChatGPT? Some people say yes, some people say no. It's certainly a whole lot cheaper to make, which upset the entire stock market. And lost NVIDIA a whole lot of money on the stock market. Okay, let's drop this into review. But I thought this was a practical one to show you guys. DeepSeek is the new AI chatbot on everybody's lips and is currently sitting at the top of Apple's App Store in the US and the UK. Yeah, it took over. A completely free AI model built by a Chinese startup, DeepSeek wants to make AI even more accessible to the masses by offering a competitor to OpenAI's ChatGPT O1 reasoning model without a fee. So it's totally free. And there's Ted. Well, you can say hi, but of course, we'd all love it if you came in here and joined us. Just saying. Anyway, I'm only on my second story, and of course, it's on DeepSeek, the big deal of the week. So I've got 2 of these stories. So hopefully you'll come in, Ted. All right. Let's see. New AI. Oh, and it said without a fee, and I told you it is free. And it's also open source, so you can go copy their code and use it for whatever you want. New AI apps appear on the App Store almost daily, and there's often hype around the new model launch as people look for the next alternative to ChatGPT. And they never thought anybody would catch them. Now they're worried. Whether you're an avid user of OpenAI software or you prefer to use Google Gemini, which I tend to use, and I also tend to use Copilot on the PC here. I probably use that the most, actually. There's an AI tool for everyone, and DeepSeek wants to be the next icon on your home screen. After seeing DeepSeek all over my newsfeed, me too, I knew I had to give the brand new AI a go and see if it was as good as people who made it out to be online. I pitted DeepSeek V3 and DeepThink R1 against ChatGPT 4o and O1 to see just how good the new king of the App Store really is. So he did some nice tests here, as you'll see. AI life hacks. For everything DeepThink offers compared to ChatGPT. So I only thought it was fair to use the AI chatbot the same way I would use AI in my daily life, which is smart. And Ted says, hi, everyone. So not sure if that means he won't be in, but I'm still hoping. Recently, I've been wanting to get help from AI to create a daily schedule that fits my needs as a person who works from home and needs to look after a dog. Up until recently, my partner also worked from home, so it was much easier to split tasks. But she is now working from an office, and I need to find a way to juggle life, work, and my French bulldog Kermit. I asked ChatGPT 04 and DeepSeek V3 to create a daily schedule with some information on when I wake up, my dog's potty routine, and a brief breakdown of my workflow. Both created excellent schedules that I could genuinely see myself using daily. However, ChatGPT's memory feature made OpenAI schedule even more coherent. So ChatGPT used the stuff that he'd fed it before, and I don't believe that DeepSeek can do that. And Brian says hi to Ted, and Ren says hi to Ted. Okay. I had previously told ChatGPT that I like to review AI news and trends at 9 a.m. and implemented that information from a previous chat into my morning routine, so it knows what you've told it before. DeepSeek, on the other hand, can only remember information from the same chat and couldn't bring back information from previous chats to help with its answers. So ChatGPT well ahead there, which makes perfect sense. EL15, explain like I'm 5. Next, I wanted to ask both AI chatbots about the NFL playoffs, considering we now know the two teams that will face each other at the Super Bowl. I asked DeepSeek and ChatGPT to give me a 200-word rundown of the NFL playoffs and how it works. Both provided excellent information that gave me a full understanding of how the seeding system works and the journey a team needs to take to make it to the Super Bowl. I think that's an excellent way to test. ChatGPT opted for a 200-word paragraph, while DeepSeek broke information down into bullet points. I probably would like that one better myself. I did notice that ChatGPT gave me more context on how teams become a wild card, but the difference between the results is fairly minimal, and you'll like one better than the other purely based on personal preference. I guess he thought they were pretty even. Problem solver. Now that we've covered some simple AI prompts, it's time to get down to the nitty-gritty and try out DeepSync R1, which is the big hot one that everybody's been using the last couple of days. The AI model that has everyone talking, exactly. People online are saying DeepSeek's free reasoning model is as good as ChatGPT's O1, which is free in small doses, but requires a paid subscription to access regularly. To test the AI chatbot's reasoning capabilities, I looked for some of the hardest problems I could find, and I'm shocked by some of the results. So this is good stuff. Now, question 1. He did this very well. Find the missing word. Apple, red, coal. I did not think of the missing word until I read it here. This isn't a particularly hard question, especially considering the source material was multiple choice with different color options. I opted to avoid giving R1 and O1 multiple choice answers and instead just wrote the question and hit enter. So he just wanted to know what's the missing word. ChatGPT O1 took 1 minute and 29 seconds to determine the answer, and it found links between the words and the fairy tale Snow White. I thought that was interesting. The model decided to answer based on this quote. Her lips were red as blood, her hair as black as coal, and her skin was white as snow. Yes, from the original Snow White story. Based on this quote, O1 chose snow as the missing word answer. While its thought process was clever, it wasn't the answer I was looking for. It definitely wouldn't have been the one I was looking for either. DeepThink R1, on the other hand, took 1 minute and 14 seconds, so a tiny bit quicker, to answer, and it managed to guess the right word, black. Apple is red, coal is black. Impressive to say the least. And remember, we started with apple, red, coal. So, very logical. Question 2. 1, finish the sequence. 128 question mark 2. Finish the sequence House, Saturn, Dog, Burger. These two sequences are completely unrelated, but I thought it would be interesting to ask back-to-back questions to see what happens. While the first sequence is very easy, the second is impossible. They are just 3 random words. Would ChatGPT O1 or DeepThink R1 be able to notice the trap? Well, no. Both reasoning models attempted to find an answer and gave me a completely different one. DeepThink R1 answered yellow because it thought the words were related to the color: white, house, yellow, Saturn, brown, dog, yellow, burger. ChatGPT-1, on the other hand, answered car because it found the sequence almost impossible, but decided to offer answers based on a common puzzle approach. The approach it chose to offer up was linking each item into the bigger category it belongs to: house, building, Saturn, planet, dog, animal, burger, food, and car, vehicle. Also logical. I think either one of them came up with anything worth anything, not in my opinion. Ultimately, both reasoning models were wrong, and neither responded by saying there were too many variables to give an accurate answer. I think it would have been better if they would have come up at least knowing the second one was a trap. Okay, now this one is tough. Question 3. Hummingbirds within apatoforms uniquely have a bilaterally paired oval bone, a sesamoid embedded in the caudolateral portion of the expanded cruciate aponeurosis of insertion of M, depressed caudate, I guess. How many paired tendons are supported by this sesamoid bone? Answer with a number. So for the final question, I decided to ask ChatGPT and O1 and DeepThink R1 a question from humanity's last exam. So he didn't come up with this. The hardest AI benchmark out there. To a mere mortal like myself with no knowledge of hummingbird autonomy, good, it's not just me who doesn't know anything about hummingbird autonomy, this question is genuinely impossible. These reasoning models, however, seem to be up for the challenge. O1 answered 4, while DeepThink R1 answered 2. Unfortunately, the correct answer isn't available online to prevent AI chatbots from scraping the internet to find the correct response. That said, from some research, I do believe DeepThink might be right here, while O1 is just off the mark. So remember, ChatGPT's came up with 4, and DeepThink answered 2. So he thought that was closer. It was good that they couldn't find that answer out on the net. DeepSeek versus ChatGPT. So I've run multiple prompts and used both chatbots for an extensive amount of time. But what is the better option? According to the answers I received from prompts, DeepThink R1 is an excellent free reasoning model that makes you question whether it's worth paying to access O1 regularly. That's what has Sam Altman and everybody at OpenAI worried. DeepSeek is only available on the web. DeepSeek is only available on the web, iOS App Store, and Play Store. Yeah, I pulled it onto one of my phones the other night. I asked one simple question, and that's all I've done. So I haven't done much of anything with it. So if you want to use a standalone Mac app or iPad app, you'll need to wait for the company to release one. So right now, you can pretty much only get these on your phone, get the DeepSeek one on your phone. And you can get it on your iPhone and your Android. According to humanity's last exam, DeepThink R1 outperforms Chat O1 with a 9.4% accuracy. So they're saying the new one, the cheaper one, is a little bit better. 9.4% accuracy rate compared to OpenAI's 9.1. So not much difference. It's a marginal difference, but considering one's completely free, it may sway you towards using the new kid on the block. Personally, I'll be sticking with ChatGPT because I don't have enormous requirements for reasoning models, and I rely heavily on the memories feature, which makes sense for him, which allows the AI chatbot to reference previous conversations. I also like the fact that ChatGPT has a standalone Mac and iPad app, as well as the ability, it's been around a while, as well as the ability to generate images with one of the best AI image generators, DALL-E. DeepSeek is purely text-based and lacks multimodal capabilities, but considering how new it is, this is an incredibly promising start to a genuine challenger for OpenAI's crown. And there's a lot of discussion on whether this is better, but it's so much cheaper. Is everybody else wasting money with the expensive ones with ChatGPT and all the other ones? And it's an ongoing saga. But I have another story following this one up because his co-writer doesn't think it's going to last. So let's go on to that. He said, so I said, DeepSeek won't last, one man's opinion. Also, TechRadar, and this is from January 28th, 3 days ago. Don't get too attached to DeepSeek. It'll never survive in the U.S. by Lance Ulanoff, and we probably read more of his articles here than anybody else. China is watching. So, into review. Has everyone lost their collective minds? How did DeepSeek go from a relatively unknown Chinese startup AI chatbot to the hottest commodity on smartphones and tangentially the U.S. stock market? To be clear, I can't get on DeepSeek and challenge the R1. So he couldn't even get on it at the time. I think he can now. I've been trying for 2 days, and the backlog of signups and some cyber attacks has completely overwhelmed DeepSeek's vaunted service. Now, I was able to download DeepSeek on my Android phone. I think I downloaded it on OnePlus 13 right away, so I guess it was no longer jammed up when I tried it. I read John Anthony DeSoto's excellent DeepSeek Hands-On, which is the one we just read, which made it clear that while DeepSeek R1 is good, it's not a world changer. Yes, he called it an excellent free reasoning model that might make you question why you're paying for OpenAI's more expensive and also quite good R1 model. That's a fair question, but it doesn't account for the U.S. stock market panic, and boy, didn't they panic, or borderline irrational response to the emergence of this model. Yeah, everybody went crazy. This smells fishy. At issue here is that not only is DeepSeek R1 free, but the company, so he doesn't seem to believe them, but the company claims it trained its models with cheap chips, and they use NVIDIA chips also, but just much older ones and much cheaper ones. And keep in mind, they have sanctions against Chinese companies, so they couldn't even get the expensive chips that ChatGPT uses. And for the cost, now get this, of just $5.6 million US, so way cheaper. In my world, that's a lot of money. In the realm of AI, it's nothing. Meta will reportedly spend $65 billion on AI training this year alone. The need for ever greater AI model processing power turned NVIDIA into the most valuable company in the world. Yeah, and that was months ago. And it stayed that way until now, till this week. It lost that distinction during the sell-off. Now, along comes DeepSeek saying it did the same thing for essentially pennies. Suddenly, every investor wondered if they'd made the wrong bet. So, yeah, and that's why people started selling NVIDIA stock. So with almost no information or real proof that DeepSeek and its investors are being transparent and truthful, so he doesn't trust their answers, investors have started pulling their AI dollars from the U.S. stock market. Yeah, that's true. As I mentioned, DeepSeek is a Chinese app, not Chinese the way TikTok is with the distant parent, ByteDance, maintaining a thready control over a now mostly U.S.-based counterpart. TikTok, now keep in mind, this is how TikTok is run here. TikTok, which is run in the U.S. by U.S. employees and stores all its data in the U.S., has until April to find the U.S. buyer or be banned again inside the U.S. But while it's operating here, it's run in the U.S. by U.S. employees, and it's stored in the U.S. So that's right now. DeepSeek makes no bones about being Chinese. Yeah, nobody's talked about banning them, although I did see an article, I didn't get a chance to read it, that Italy has already banned it. So my guess is more to come probably here also. In the App Store, its listing is full of Chinese language characters. Millions of US users are rushing to use the R1 model and send it to, and get this, and send it their text queries, prompts about their lives, work, and plans. In other words, they're giving them all the information. The Chinese government has full access to all the data, to all that data, and now we're just willingly handing it to them because someone said this R1 model was the most amazing and promising AI breakthroughs he'd seen. That's true. He's got a very good point. Really? The app doesn't even include multimodal support. That's true. It's only text. It's just text. How does that add up to amazing when I'm talking to all my AIs and showing them pictures they can instantly interpret and react to? So you can't talk to it. You have to type it in. And it only does text. So it's kind of restricted. But like the other guy said, it's very new. Listening to one activist investor tout a new product for undefined reasons is never a good idea. Do we know if he has a stake in this company? Do we know if he has an axe to grind with the US-based AI companies? What's clear, though, is that he and DeepSeek do not necessarily have US interests or its consumers' interests at heart. That's probably very true. This won't last. Let's say, for the sake of argument, DeepSeek's R1 does turn out to be a breakthrough. There are hints that the company has far more models up its sleeve. It recently released a generative, now it is an image model. I think it just came out day before yesterday or 2 days ago to developers. That still doesn't wipe out its Chinese parentage and continuing ownership. It doesn't matter how good it is, this app will not survive in the current US climate. That makes perfect sense. It's reasonable to assume, though, that if DeepSeek's R1 and its other models do turn out to be as groundbreaking as promised and trained at that incredibly low cost, it will reset the AI industry. That's almost certain. Meta OpenAI, which has promised a $500 billion investment with the U.S. government to build Project Stargate, Microsoft, NVIDIA, and others will have to rethink their AI strategies and figure out how to dramatically cut their own costs. Yeah, if this thing ends up being as good as they say, they're spending way too much money and everybody knows it. I'm not convinced, though, that's what's coming. There's no reason to trust DeepSeek and its backers' claims. I think the truth about the time and financial investment it took them to get here will come out. Now, keep in mind, they actually have been around since the end of 2023. So they've had a little time, not much. And then DeepSeek and R1 will go through its own kind of reset. So he makes some very valid points. Everybody's going crazy and nothing's been proven. And how do we know they're telling the truth? So all very good points, I thought. Okay. So that's the big deal stories of the week. The way things are going, I'm pretty sure we'll probably be talking about DeepSeek again next week. Oh, and Sam Altman of OpenAI is already saying, well, and others, that based on their own written data, that they probably use ChatGPT as a basis for how they develop this. And so, well, you're stealing our data. But who's been accused of stealing data any more than OpenAI? Well, nobody. So you're seeing articles out there about, it's the thief calling the thief a thief. Yeah, it's ridiculous. So anyway, such a big deal. We'll probably still be talking about it next week. So on to something might be closer to home for some of us. iPhone SE4 leaked video, full reveal. This was on Phone Arena. So let's go take a look. Like I said, it's 10 seconds. iPhone SE4 shown off clear as day in new leaked video by Abdullah Asim. And this is from 4 days ago, the 26th. I'm going to leave this in I'm not going to put it in reader view because I'm going to play that quick little video. An upcoming revamped iPhone SE, rumored to be called the iPhone 16e, is all but confirmed now. Now a new video has leaked showing off what the phone will look like in your hands. This video is either a model with its screen turned off or of a pretty convincing dummy human. Yeah, it does look real. Multiple reports have come out recently that claim that the iPhone SE4 will look like the iPhone 14. Other reports said that the phone would have a single rear camera instead of the setup that the iPhone 14 had. Let's get out of that. Okay. The video shows off that both were true. The front is of the iPhone 14 and the rear is a new design. Even the notch from the iPhone 14 is present, as you can see up here. Oh no, we'll get that. Okay. Here is the video. So like I said, I believe it's 10 seconds, so we'll just take a quick watch. Here's what it looks like. You can hear the music, but like I said, it's quick. At the front, you see the notch. Quick, isn't it? Let's see if let's replay it real quick. Here's the back. There's the front. See the notch. Like I said, very, very quick. Now I'll drop it into reader view. And we'll read the rest. The single camera on the back is probably to keep the cost down, especially because it said that the new iPhone SE will have 8 gigabytes of RAM. This RAM will be needed for Apple Intelligence, which we're getting more letdowns about even today, to function properly. Being Apple's latest fixation, it's no surprise that the company is bringing AI to its budget Model 2, if it ever brings real AI to any of them, really. This leaked video, if accurate, also confirms that the Pixel-like iPhone casings that have been leaked recently are not for the upcoming iPhone SE. That is either an elaborate hoax or perhaps casings for the new iPhone 17 Air model, that's my guess, expected to release this year. The new iPhone SE4 is also said to debut Apple's in-house cellular modem. If the modem is a success, then we can expect to see it in the iPhone 17 line as well. While this will probably be a bit more expensive than the previous iPhone SE, it should still hopefully remain an affordable way to enter the iOS ecosystem. Yeah, it should still be affordable, I would think. Currently, the iPhone SE inventory is running out around the globe, which basically confirms that the company is getting ready to launch a new one. I still think Apple should have kept the older model around at a reduced cost, though. Well, we always all say that, don't we? Hopefully, the new iPhone SE4 or iPhone 16e will be one of the best phones of 2025, especially after the underwhelming iPhone 16 and the disappointing Galaxy S25. A lot of people are disappointed with the S25 because it didn't change much. Okay. And I don't want to read the bio stuff. So hopefully those who want the more affordable model will be able to get their hands on it sooner than later. Nothing else new in the comments, so we will continue. Like I said, it's going to be a short night, folks. And I threw this in here just because I thought it was very interesting, and we all know President Trump has been executing orders left and right, and here's another one. And Google didn't have to go along with it, but they said they are, so that's good. I guess that's good. Google, Gulf of Mexico, now Gulf of America, Denali, now Mount McKinley. And like I said, I think it was Mount McKinley when I was younger. So that's on Mashable, so let's go take a look. Google Maps will rename Gulf of Mexico to America following Trump's order. The app will also change the name of North America's highest mountain to Mount McKinley. Elmer has seen Mount McKinley or seen Denali. So let's drop this into reader view. I think that picture will stay there. I think. Yep. One of President Donald Trump's first actions after last week's inauguration was to sign an executive order renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. I don't think anybody expected that. Well, maybe somebody did. I didn't. As well as Denali to Mount McKinley. Brian, thank you so much as always. Brian saying iPhone SE4 should be a decent device except for the 60 hertz screen. I agree, but Apple does tend to make 60 hertz screens better than anybody else's 60 hertz screens, at least in my opinion. But good point, Brian. And thank you as always, sir. You're very faithful. Okay. Now, Google has announced it will follow Trump's directive, changing how these landmarks are labeled in Google Maps. And they didn't have to do this. While Trump's order alters the U.S. government's official position regarding the Gulf of Mexico and Denali's names, it does not specifically direct companies to follow suit, so they didn't have to go along with this. Even so, Google confirmed that its Maps app will be renaming the Gulf of Mexico and Denali in an X post on Monday. We've received a few questions about naming within Google Maps, Google wrote, with at least a few of those questions coming from Masterwork, who wrote this article. We have a long-standing practice of applying name changes when they have been updated in official government sources, so that makes perfect sense. The Geographic Names Information System is the U.S. government's official source for geographic features names, so it hasn't officially become official there yet, maintaining records and standardizing information across the country. As of Monday, the GNIS has not yet been updated to reflect Trump's executive order and still lists the sea and mountain in question as the Gulf of Mexico and Denali, respectively. However, Trump's directive included a 30-day deadline for the name changes to be completed and all references to the Gulf of Mexico removed, so they still have time. Google has thus stated that it will wait until the GNIS amends its records before switching over to the new Trump-mandated names. When that happens, we will update Google Maps in the U.S. quickly to show Mount McKinley and Gulf of America, wrote Google. The tech giant also confirmed that Google Maps name changes won't only be visible to U.S. users. Rather, the Gulf of America and Mount McKinley labels will be visible to everyone who uses Google Maps, regardless of the country they're in. This is due to Google's long-standing practice of labeling inconsistencies by deferring to a landmark's official name in the country where it's located. And since Denali is in America, everybody will see it as Denali on Google Maps. As Mount McKinley, sorry. When official names vary between countries, Maps use to see their official local name, said Google. Everyone in the rest of the world sees both names. That applies here too. That makes good sense. As such, we can reasonably expect Google Maps to change its label for Denali to Mount McKinley across the globe in the near future, as the mountain is located entirely within U.S. borders. In contrast, the U.S. does not own the Gulf of Mexico/America, which is also bordered by Mexico and Cuba. It therefore appears likely that while U.S. Google Maps users will see the Gulf completely renamed to Gulf of America, international users may see the new name alongside its internationally recognized label, Gulf of Mexico. Perfect sense to me. So just thought it was a very interesting article, and that Google's willing to go along with Trump, but they're waiting for it to be official. I think that makes perfect sense. So just an interesting article, I thought. All right, nothing else new in the comments. And we're down to my last story. Just because we've done so many stories and talked so much about TikTok in the last 6-7 months, I just thought this one was interesting. The resurrected TikTok is not the same. And this was on Phone Arena. This is from 4 days ago. Users noticed that TikTok is not the same anymore since it was brought back to life by Sebastian Peer. So let's go into review. For now, TikTok is back with us here in the US, but is that the same TikTok? Some users say it's definitely not. Now, I haven't noticed any difference, but of course, I pretty much only go on TikTok. Eleanor sends me stuff from TikTok and I take a look at it. So I haven't noticed any difference. They say the app is, oh, and by the way, because of when it got cut out for that day and a half, if you had it on any older device, in my case, phones, that still works. But remember, I got the OnePlus 13 and the Galaxy A35. Neither of those have TikTok. It tried to copy TikTok, but since they're not available on the Apple Store or the Play Store, I can't get them on the new phones, only the ones I already had them on. So just interesting. They said the acting strangely these days after it was brought back to life by President Trump following the recent nationwide TikTok outages. People on TikTok now see censorship, a Reuters report reads. Users report that certain activities on TikTok, such as live streams, have become less common. And I knew before you could, if you were scrolling, you'd see somebody, you just click here to see the live stream. Maybe there's less of that. I don't watch them, so I'm probably the wrong person to ask. Additionally, content is being removed or flagged more frequently for violating community guidelines. So more of that, including actions that were previously deemed acceptable. TikTok has denied altering its policies or algorithms, stating that its team is working to stabilize U.S. operations. But let's keep in mind that since in the U.S. these are run by U.S. Employees, maybe they're doing something to it. I don't know. Maybe they were ordered to. The company acknowledged that users may experience temporary disruptions affecting app features and accessibility during this process. Some users, however, believe content moderation has increased, so they're hitting things harder, looking at things harder, citing examples like restricted search results and warnings against misinformation. Prompts encouraging users to verify sources have also become more noticeable. So that would make sense, I guess. And people who use it heavy, unlike me, probably would spot that stuff much easier than I would. Others claim TikTok is targeting specific phrases and topics. For example, Pat Lola, a comedian and veteran with 1.3 million followers, claims that a satirical video about Elon Musk was flagged as misinformation. Despite gaining over 1 million views, the video was restricted to private sharing. Okay, that would be a big change, which Lola found unprecedented. So I guess before it wasn't privately shared, you could share with anybody, my guess. Similarly, Lisa Klein struggled to upload a video criticizing Trump, claiming it was repeatedly blocked due to censorship. Next, political commentator Denisha Carter, with 2 million followers, found her account permanently suspended after TikTok's temporary shutdown. So just that one day made a difference, I guess. She was told it violated multiple policies, so somebody in the U.S. must have updated something, though TikTok did not provide further details. Carter, known for her critiques of tech executives' political influence, described the ban as politically driven. Sure sounds like it. So I'm wondering, will they support the TikTok ban now that they've got a taste of their own medicine, or will they adapt? TikTok may be different for some, but people are desperate to use it. Otherwise, would some sell their $450 phones with TikTok installed for $10,000? Yeah, we've seen that. I don't know that anybody actually did that. Yes, it's a crazy world out there. So like I say, I don't use it enough to know for sure that it's changed, but I guess heavy users have noticed, and you certainly know if you got banned. So I guess something's different. And I guess in that one day that they were out, the U.S. employees could have been told to go in there and change things. So just a very interesting story. The one thing, TikTok is never out of the news. That seems to be an ongoing certainty. So that's all the stories I've got for tonight, folks. And we didn't get Ted or anybody coming in, so I guess Ted is out and busy, but glad he dropped by. Ren, so great to have you here. And let's thank Brian and Eleanor and Annette, some of the most faithful people in the world. So I will be back next week. Who knows? Maybe we'll get lucky and have Ted in here. And keep an eye on Mike's Simply Your Device channel because he's becoming more active. He's gotten a couple of videos up in the last 2 weeks, and he got his unboxing up today of the Galaxy S25 Ultra. So if you haven't subscribed to Simply Your Device, please go give him a sub and give him some support. And I will be back next week, and I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. We had rain. I was working today, and we had rain all day, which I don't care when I'm working. All I'm doing is driving around delivering cars. But my outdoor bicycle riding, I've only done twice in the last 2.5 weeks because of the weather and the cold and the snow. And it looks like tomorrow morning it's going to start getting nice, and I should be able to ride my bicycle tomorrow and Sunday. So I'm very happy about that. So I hope all of you have a very blessed weekend, and let's always remember we all do better when we love each other. See you next week, folks.